Pull up your power bill. If it climbed this year, a giant new customer may be part of the reason. The company can change its plans. The lines built for its data center cannot. And part of that bet can reach your power bill, but just let me explain. We call it the cloud because it sounds harmless. Your power company sees a factory that never turns off, needs new power lines, and drinks millions of gallons of water. The promise is in the future. The costs are actually already here. So who pays if it falls short? AI works, people use it, and companies pay for it. That is not the argument. The risk is that Microsoft, Amazon, Google, Meta, xAI, Oracle, and competing labs are all building at once. Nobody wants to build too little before knowing how much computing power customers will actually pay for. OpenAI shows why that race is risky. In 2019, before ChatGPT, Sam Altman told an audience that OpenAI had no revenue and no clear plan to make money. The idea was to build something smart enough to solve that problem later. OpenAI did find customers, but leaked audits and figures reviewed by the Financial Times put its 2025 revenue near $13 billion and its operating loss near $21 billion. Altman later said that the company could pursue profit sooner, but chose to spend more on computing instead. That is not a crime. It is a bet that the future demand will justify what gets built today, which is a lot. Here's what makes that spending risky. ChatGPT is still the biggest consumer AI app, but SimilarWeb estimates show its share of visits to AI websites falling from about 79% to 54% in 1 year. OpenAI did not lose its audience, it lost the assumption that only one company would own the market. That matters because a data center takes years to build. Competitors can catch up in months. The advantage may disappear before the data center even opens. And here's the part you should care about. Technology companies can change course. In April 2026, Microsoft and OpenAI changed their deal. Microsoft kept access to OpenAI's technology, but it also gained more freedom to develop its own AI and use models made by other companies. That is smart business. If one model becomes too expensive or falls behind, Microsoft has other options. Your county cannot return a substation, transmission lines, or a water agreement. The company can change direction. The town you live in keeps what was built, and from here, it just gets worse. Okay, so what is actually getting built here? A data center is a warehouse full of computers that never turn off. The logo on the door changes, what the building needs doesn't. Electricity goes in, heat comes out. If that heat stays, the machines cook themselves. So every site has to be cooled, and there are only two ways to do it. Option 1 is to chill the air with more electricity, and that means more demand on the same power grid your house is on. Option 2 is water. You spray it, let it evaporate, and the heat leaves with the steam. That's less power, but the water that leaves as steam does not come back to your town's supply, and it is usually the same treated water people drink. That's the trade. Every data center gets cooled with somebody's electricity or somebody's drinking water. The only question left is, which one is it? Northern Virginia holds the densest cluster of data centers on Earth. It is the clearest place to watch this reach a bill. The regional grid there is called PJM, and its capacity prices exploded. Capacity is not the electricity you burn tonight. It is money paid up front so enough power plants exist for the worst day of the year. The independent monitor of this market named data center demand as the primary driver. Okay, let's be precise here because people get this wrong in both directions. Nothing on your power bill says GPU. What happens is slower. A region gains an enormous industrial customer, and the cost of guaranteeing power to everyone goes up. New transmission lines get built, and the power company spreads that increased cost across everyone. And here's the tell. Virginia regulators created a separate rate class just for giant power users, so everyone else stops absorbing their costs. Regulators do not invent a customer class for a problem that isn't happening. Now the water, and not just how much gets used, but whose drinking water it is. Memphis is a clear example. xAI put its Colossus site in a neighborhood carrying heavy industry for generations and ran it on gas turbines while permits were still being argued. Neighbors fought those permits, but what comes out of a gas turbine does not stay on the property line. The water recycling plant that was supposed to cut the site's draw slipped behind schedule while the site kept growing. And that region drinks from an aquifer, so the cooling water and the water in people's taps are pulled from the same underground supply. Chandler, Arizona is the short version. In December 2025, after a packed hearing, the city council unanimously rejected a rezoning request for an AI data center. Desert towns don't need water scarcity explained to them. Different states, same order of operations. The computers arrive first, the power arrives however it can, and the water fixes arrive last, if they arrive at all. And now here's the part Business Channel's treat as background noise. Regular people are winning some of these fights. In the first 3 months of 2026, trackers counted about 75 major data center projects worth roughly $130 billion blocked or delayed by local opposition. Reporting puts that more than 300 cities and counties under some kind of ban or pause. In July 2026, protests ran across dozens of states the same day, and in polling, only about 14% of people said they would be fine with a data center built near them. 14%. Whatever that is, it's not a random fringe group. The industry planned for quiet zoning meetings and a ribbon cutting. It got a political movement instead. So what does saying no actually look like? For years, Loudoun County, Virginia let data centers get approved almost automatically. That's now ended. Now every project has to walk into a room and ask. The Prince William Digital Gateway, one of the largest proposals in the country, died after a court fight and dropped appeal. In Indiana, Marshall County banned them outright, and by one count, roughly a third of that state's counties have put some kind of restriction in place. The winning move is boring on purpose. Show up at the rezoning hearing, ask how many megawatts and how many gallons in writing. Turn an automatic approval into a conversation nobody prepared for. That is the whole trick. The permit is the pressure point. It is the one place in this entire story where an ordinary person outranks a $1 trillion narrative. And you're going to hear the pitch that actually gets these things approved. It's jobs. It's always jobs. Here's where that actually shows up. A construction boom for a couple years, and then a fence, a lot of cooling equipment, and a security gate. Business Insider went through subsidies and found deals where the tax breaks work out to millions of dollars for every permanent job. Around Columbus, Ohio, Google's deals meant tens of millions in tax breaks for dozens of positions. That is stadium economics without the stadium. So when your council hears the word future, ask for two numbers in the same sentence: permanent jobs and total tax break. Then ask the question nobody enjoys. If that building never fills up, who pays for the power lines that were built for it? Virginia's answer was to put giant users in a rate class of their own. Most places have not answered that question at all. So what happens if the money story cracks? We've seen this shape before. Around 2000, telecom companies laid fiber across the country for demand that took years to arrive. Nobody had to commit fraud. People just built for a future that did not show up on schedule. The difference is what gets left behind. Unused fiber sat in the ground quietly. These data centers already moved your rates, your water, and your zoning before anybody knows whether the tenant is going to stay or not. And if that tenant walks, the transmission lines are still built, the water agreement is still signed, and the recycling plant in Memphis is still a promise. Somebody still pays for all of it. That somebody has a mailbox in your town. So here's my take. This boom did not need a villain to hurt anybody. It needed a story big enough to justify unlimited spending and a country willing to treat somebody's neighborhood like a cooling fan. The chat on your phone can stay genuinely useful. There's no argument there. The data center next to the water tower can still be a bad deal for that exact zip code. Both of those are true at the same time. Only one of them shows up on a power bill with your name on it. If there's one thing I want you to take with you, it's this. Everybody at the top of this race wrote themselves a way out. Microsoft wrote one into its own contract. Investors can sell on a Tuesday, your county cannot. Your county gets the substation, the water agreement, and the fence. Nobody is going to ask your permission, but they still have to ask your county out loud in a room you are allowed to stand up in. So make them say megawatts and the gallons into a microphone on the record before the concrete is poured. That is not a protest, that is a receipt. The AI chat was free at first, the power bill won't be. Subscribe if you enjoyed this video because I enjoyed making it. See you in the next one.